governor for his assent. We believe we have also worked on many pieces of legislation in the House. And in spite of what people hear from the various things in the committee stage is where most of the changes are made. And we believe that we have assisted in formulating bills that will help our people and our country to progress. Some of these bills are the Public Service Management Bill, which has gotten its assent, the Parliamentary Commission for Standard Bills, Bill 2024, the National Park Trust Bill, the Proliferation of Finance and Prohibition Amendment Bill, the Tourist Board Amendment Bill, the Bank and Trust Companies Bill, and Insurance Bill. We also amended the British Virgin Islands Port Authority Bill, assisted in amending the Beaver Hill Services Authority Amendment Bill, the H. Lively Staff Community College, and the Financial Investigation Agency Bill. These bills deal with basically the administration of these organizations to bring them in line with what the COI recommended. So we believe that there are good things in these bills, but there are also things that can affect our country and our people moving forward. The economy, and my colleagues will expand on these a lot more. The economy is stagnant. One of the major things that the government rely on now is cruise tourism. And while cruise tourism is doing extremely well in terms of the taxi drivers, the restaurants, and the tour guides, the local economy is in need of a shot in the arm. The infrastructure of the country, most of us who live here can see our roads are in disrepair, or in spite of us getting $100 million for the repairs of these, or water, the water infrastructure of major renovation. The electricity, garbage disposal, and derelict vehicle disposal, they are also in a bit of disrepair. And the government, as is now, doesn't seem to have the capacity to fix this stuff. So we are advocating that basically that the government utilize the skill set of the opposition in order to get some of these things done in the interest of our people and our country. The tourism, again, one of my colleagues will talk a lot more on tourism. The government have announced the tourism numbers better than pre-2016 numbers, over a million visitors, but the majority, 75% is from schools tourism, and another 300,000 is overnight guests. And we all know that the overnight guests leave a lot more direct revenue in the country than cruise tourism. There is a major conference that is going on as we speak. As members of the opposition, we were not invited until the last second. So I know that's a question that is common, so I answer it. And we already had arrangements, and so we couldn't attend. So again, that's a mistake on the government part. We also want to take this opportunity to extend our congratulations to the Jahphix Community College, their boards and directors, and all who play a significant role in getting the college to where it is today. 35, 35 years of, and there are those of us, most of us here around this table, we were in BVI when this organization was formed, and the lady on my right played a significant role in its inception. So again, congratulations to you, Lorna Smith, for the role that you played, and all the other people who played that significant role. Because one of the things that has gotten this country to the distance that it's got to in such a short space of time is the education of its people. You know, some 40 years ago there was no 40. There was no comprehensive high school, and since then we have made some significant stride in education in this country. So I want to thank all the people who have played a role in the education system, and especially Jahphix South Community College for their milestone 35 years. And with those few words, I will now hand over to my colleague, Marlon Penn of the 8th District, for his comments.
Thank you, colleague, and a pleasant good afternoon to members of the media, my honorable colleagues who are around the table, persons who are listening live on 780 AM, and those persons who are watching live online. Colleague, I thank you for those opening remarks, and before I go into my formal remarks, I would like to also extend Happy New Year to the members of the media who are here with us today, colleagues and persons who are listening live, particularly the good people of a district for whom I've had the privilege to serve and represent over the years. I'll also like to express my sincerest condolences to persons who have lost loved ones in the year. We had a lot of persons who have lost loved ones, particularly in my district, Eastern and Lalo community. And I want to express sincere condolences to those individuals and their families, and particularly myself, who is not, who have also lost an uncle who we're laying to rest over the weekend on Saturday. I want to extend gratitude for the persons who've expressed condolences to my family on the passing of my uncle, Charles Penn. And I would also like to join my colleague in offering condolences to the family of the young man of just of 20 years old who lost his life to gun violence just a few days ago in the Postler Estate community. And we're seeing an uptick in this type of activity in our community. And I again express to persons who are involved in this type of activity to cease and desist and find more amicable ways to solve your differences and your disputes. And this leads to my topic of discussion this afternoon, the issue of the economy. And there's a direct correlation in terms of economic inequality and crime. And we're seeing that particularly as we engage persons through our district office, and my district office in particular, you see many of our young men are persons who are unemployed or underemployed, seeking employment, whether it's through government service, private sector, or through now what has been the only game in town, the government's rated program. And you've seen a large number of young persons who are unemployed in the territory. And that speaks to, as my colleague mentioned earlier, the sluggish nature of our economy. I've often said, and I've said it in this room particularly, that we don't have particularly a money problem in this country. We have a management problem. And the numbers bear this out. We've seen over the last 2 budget cycles where the government's projected revenues has either hit the target or exceeded the target in both 2023 and 2024. But what we've also seen is that the government's inability to manage the resources for which they've collected on behalf of the people of this territory. In 2023, we had over $50+ million unspent of capital expenditure that should have gone to develop the local economy. We've seen again, and in this very room as well, I mentioned that in 2024, that number will be even more than what we projected. In 2020, when we just recently went through the budgetary process, we've seen where over 50, and this is not my words, these are the words from the budget book of the government of the Virgin Islands, where over $58 million again of capital expenditure went unspent. This is over $100 million over a 2-year cycle that should have gone in the development of the economy, should have gone to small businesses who are struggling, who should have gotten the opportunity to deal with the infrastructural and development issues of this country. Monies that have gone back into the treasury and not into the economy to benefit the people of this territory. $100+ million unspent, yet we have the road infrastructure in our country in the current condition that they are in. Being Eastern Law, look, the community which I represent and co-represent with the Premier of the Virgin Islands, the Minister of Finance, have some of the worst roads in this entire territory. Something that has stretched the entire territory, and we see no relief anywhere in sight. Yet we have over $100 million back into the treasury. The water issue in this country, the issue of water has now reached a stage that is a state of emergency needs to be called with the issue of water. Months on end, persons within this country don't have the benefit of potable water, the use of potable water within their communities or within their homes for their families. In the 21st century, the BVI is relegated to persons having to still fill bottles of water in pans of buckets of water to bathe and do the necessities for themselves and their families, while you have over $100+ million going back into the treasury. We do not have a money problem, people of the Virgin Islands. We have a management problem. People are incapable of managing your resources on behalf of you and yourself. The only persons that are the only person that are mainly affected by this is you, the people. You're the ones who have to pay the exorbitant mechanic bills every month because your car is in a state of disrepair. Constant changing of tires because of the poor road conditions throughout this entire territory, not just particularly in my community. The issue that my colleague mentioned in terms of maintenance, yes, we see an uptick in persons who are coming via cruise tourism and the direct flight, and we are happy that those things are happening, and we're happy that we're welcoming persons to our shores. But what are we welcoming into? We are unable to do basic maintenance of the roadways, basic maintenance of the bush and thing, and that we need to keep the country in a state of readiness or preparedness to welcome persons to our shores. I'm close to my time. I want to make this last and final point, the of the opposition and colleagues. We have yet again in this budget cycle over $60 million budgeted for infrastructural improvements in this country. 29 million of which is coming from the new $100 million loan facility. Over the last 2 budget cycles, the government has proven its inability to execute on behalf of you, the people of these Virgin Islands. In fact, in the last budget cycle, I asked a question specifically about the unspent loan funding from the CDB loan that was borrowed some almost 6 years ago. Of that money, we've paid over $2.269 million in commitment fees because we have the money sitting in a bank account unspent. When we have all of these challenges that we've expressed in terms of the infrastructure, the water infrastructure, and all the other main infrastructural projects that we have to do in this country. We have a complex. We spend $10 million a year, and we still have an administrative complex that has gone unfinished for the past 7+ years. And we see nowhere in sight where we will get that particular facility back up and running. I'll stop there because I think I've exceeded my time allotted, but I have more to say on the matter of the poor infrastructure, the economic challenges, but I think it's fair to let my colleagues have their chance to speak, and I'll answer any questions that was asked during the course of this press conference. I thank you.
Member for the 8th. Now we have Territorial at Large Lorna Smith to make her comment.
Thank you very much, Leader of the Opposition. Good afternoon to my colleagues. Good afternoon to the media, and good afternoon to everybody who is within listening range. I am happy to be here as an independent member of the opposition to wish everybody a happy 2025 and also to express my condolences, as my colleagues did, in relation to persons who've passed, and especially the young man who lost his life within the last few days. I'm very happy that we are having this discussion, Leader, and I expect that this will be a regular session where we will be able to keep the public informed of all our activities of the House, and the matters that are of interest to the public. Last week, the governor opened the new session of the House with the throne speech, and it was an interesting speech. There was a lot on the environment, which was excellent. There was a lot on good governance. But I have to say, as my colleague from the 8th said, there wasn't a lot on economic development and the economy of this territory. In fact, we continue to be bound up with what I call bureaucracy. We can't seem to get rid of the bureaucracy. I was at the conference that the leader of the opposition spoke about, and I invited myself, by the way. We were not invited, but I invited myself from last year when I heard about it, and so my name was on the program, and I attended. And it was amazing to hear one of the speakers made the true statement that there has not been any real development in the country, any new development, investment in the country, I should say, in terms of, we're talking about hotel developments in the last 20 years. And it was a very eloquent panel experienced. And there were 2 points that they made that was of interest to me. One was the need for us to be more intentional in terms of investment. We have to go after investment. And the other thing that was said, which we know of, is that there is significant bureaucracy. I myself got up and said that, endorsed the point about the bureaucracy, not in relation to, as I said, it was not a political point I was making, but it was the truth. And it was not just the ministers that didn't seem to know how to proceed, but the bureaucracy is at the public service level. And we have to fix this if we are going to get anywhere as a country. As a member, in terms of my own activities, I am very happy to continue to work directly with persons of the territory from Anegada to Jos van Dyke on a regular basis. I have been working in terms of working with the community as a whole, persons in the community who are willing to donate funding. I have in fact asked them to do so that they can support our schools, so that they can support individuals who are in need. And I am very happy to do this. I'm a person who's very active on Facebook, so I don't need to talk too much about what I have been able to accomplish, but I'm pleased to do so as a person who has been elected as a territorial at large representative. While on Anegada, One of the things that concerns me deeply, I believe it concerns all of us in the opposition, that the land titles that were offered, in fact, not just offered, but it was agreed that they would have been given to Anegadians a year ago, and they are still not given to the Anegadians. What is even more annoying and concerning to Anegadians is that persons who are not from Anegada are able to carry on their developments and ahead of Anegadians. And I call on the government to fix these kinds of issues. Worse yet was that last year we approved a supplementary provisions for the persons who had worked so hard on the Anegada Lands Commission, done all the hard work, all the groundwork to bring the numbers of, I think it was something like between 60 to 90 land grants that should have been approved and issued. And these people still have not been paid the monies that have been owed to them. Anegada is being treated like I wouldn't even call it a stepchild. Anegada is being treated in a fashion, it's like a distant cousin of the British Virgin Islands. And I call on the government to bring Anegada to the center, as I always say, and to give them the kind of attention that they need. And I'm sure the same holds as the member for the second would say in relation to this Just Van Dyke. Still on Anegada, of course, there were a number of Anegadians who had made applications for assistance under the micro and small business grants, and they were also left out of the fold. I hope, having spoken to them, having spoken to the ministry, spoken to the Department of Trade, that they will receive the grants that they are eligible for this year. One other area that I want to touch on too very quickly, I continue to be very passionate about financial services. I talked at the opening, and in fact at the budget debate, about the fact that I wanted to start what I called a boot camp for persons, British Virgin Islanders in the financial services industry. After we are finished with this session, I am pleased that a number of like-minded persons, including me, will get together to discuss how we might accomplish this, and with the objective of building greater confidence on the part of BV Islanders who are involved in the industry in financial services, getting them to understand what their role is, and you will be hearing more about this. And finally, my advocacy for cleaning up the country. I'm seeing some improvements. I want to just for 30 seconds, I know I'm out of time, but for 30 seconds, talk about my Roots to Resilience program. And I would invite you to speak to Miss Brenda Letsam about that program. I'm very pleased with the progress. I'm grateful to my colleague here for starting us off with the cleanup, and we're now ready to paint the town. And I have to mention this. In all my joy, it turned to sadness when a few miles down from me in Havers, I saw a huge pile of derelict vehicles piled up. You can see them from the sea or beautiful waters, and you can see it from the land. I call on the government to fix our problems as they relate to garbage disposal. And I thank you very much, and I will be happy to answer any questions when the time comes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Now we'll have the member for the 6th, Honorable Myron Walburn.
Thank you very much.
Leader of the Opposition. Good afternoon to the people of the Virgin Islands, especially the good people of District 6, who elected me to represent their interests in the House of Assembly of the Virgin Islands. I'd like to thank you very much for your trust and confidence in me, and I give the complete reassurance that I will continue to represent your interest and represent it well. I extend my condolences to those people from District 6 and around the territory of the Virgin Islands that have lost loved ones recently. I extend my deepest sympathies again to the family of young Quinton Noel, who lost his life as a result of a heinous and utterly wicked act of violence earlier this week. As a community, I urge all of us to show our absolute contempt for criminal activities in the territory. Criminal activities can cause significant social and economic problems for individuals and communities, and it should find no solace in the Virgin Islands. We must continue to give our support to law enforcement so that they can protect our country and work to root out criminal elements in the society. While we navigate the complexities of law enforcement, however, it is crucial that we also consider how we can preserve public safety without eroding rights and liberties that define democracy. The effectiveness of law enforcement should not come at the cost of our civil liberties, freedom of speech, the right to privacy, the right not to incriminate oneself, etc. The challenge lies in navigating this delicate equilibrium. This was in fact the point of contention in two recent bills that were brought by the government in the recent House of Assembly. I would like to reiterate the opposition's strong displeasure for the manner in which the government continues to bring bills to the House of Assembly with huge implications for the people of the territory, and expect to have the first, second, and third readings all in one sitting. This is wrong and should not be continued, save for bills that relate to our financial services sector, which do almost invariably require quick and decisive action. The Police Act, for instance, provided electronic surveillance to be done on the premises of people who they have reasonable cause to believe may have been involved in criminal activity. However, the authorizing authority to allow this electronic surveillance was to be the Commissioner of Police. The Police Commissioner should not be the authorizing authority to allow the police to install, for instance, electronic devices on your property, which of course will be done without your knowledge. The Commissioner should not be the custodian of human rights while at the same time rest in the outcome of the criminal. The authorizing authority should be independent of the High Court. The amendments were made primarily through the advocacy of the opposition. The Computer and Misuse Cybercrime Amendment Bill 2025 was another significant civil liberties of the public had it not been for the intervention and advocacy of the opposition. Section 5 of the proposed amendment required a suspect to give his or her password for their phone to the police when investigating an offense. This section violated both Section 15.3 and Section 23 of the Virgin Islands Constitutional Order 2007. It is also trite law that any law that is inconsistent with the Constitution is null, void, and of no effect. I raise these things to say that we have a government that continues to not take their legislative responsibilities seriously. By their own admission, it was stated by one member that they do not read the bills when they come to cabinet. This is a clear dereliction of duty. Bills should be carefully examined when at the cabinet stage and should not be allowed to come to the House of Assembly if they have not been properly scrutinized. Doing this will avoid grave anxiety in the minds of the public, who get extremely concerned about their welfare when they hear or read some of the clauses for consideration in these bills. The two bills, however, during the committee stage, were properly amended with the right balance struck for consideration by the Governor for the royal assent. It would be unforgivable if I did not mention some of the infrastructural issues that continue to plague the people of District 6. Residents in my district continue to grapple with the inconsistent supply of potable water. In fact, the matter seems to be getting worse. Every single day, the district has water challenges, from broken pipes to the reservoirs, which are leaking, by the way, being empty, to challenges with BVIEC that caused the water plant to go offline. The people of the country and the people of District 6 deserve better. I am tired, and I'm sure the people are as well, of the defensive posture of this government when this issue is raised. The blaming of previous governments is not helpful, and is frankly a demonstration of immaturity, which has become a hallmark of this government. This government has been in place for almost 6 years. I urge them to give the Water and Sewage Department the resources that it needs to deliver a reliable supply of potable water to the public. The workers in the department are doing their best, but they are not getting the support and the resources necessary to effectively discharge their duties. The terrible road infrastructure in the territory continues to prevail. I am yet to see the wisdom in digging up roads all over the territory all at once, with insufficient action to follow to fix them. If the government has a plan to fix the road infrastructure, they are certainly doing a great job at hiding it. The road between Manchester and Bellevue was dug up to place pipes and have remained in an almost impassable state for weeks. I inquired from the government about this matter, and I was told that the work to resurface the road would have started last Saturday. To date, no work has started, and no new reliable update has been given. Derelict vehicles and overgrown bushes continue to be the order of the day in the territory. We are in the heart of the tourist season, and we have not found a proper way to address these issues. This lackluster approach to the cleanliness of our country cannot be allowed to continue. Ladies and gentlemen, these are just a few of the challenges that we continue to face in the territory under the Virgin Islands Party government. We will continue to do our best to bring the issues to the fore, with hopes that the government will listen and make the necessary improvements. We continue to make ourselves available to the government to provide assistance in any way that we can, because this is our home and we all want the best for it. Thank you very much.
The member for the second, Honorable Mitch Turnbull.
Thank you, Leader of the Opposition, ladies and gentlemen of the press, the listening public. I thank you for joining us today, and I want to extend New Year's greetings to all, and especially the lovely people of the 2nd Electoral District, to which I remain grateful for the opportunity to serve them and be their voice. I, like my other colleagues, want to extend condolences to all families that have been going through this difficult time of loss and grief, especially the most recent young man in the 6th District in Purcell Estate who lost his life, and to his family, I extend condolences. To the Honorable Member for the 8th as well on the loss of his uncle. I extend condolences to you and your entire family circle. Ladies and gentlemen, I sit here today as a representative of the people, committed to addressing the present issues that affect our communities, seniors, and young people. Today, my focus will be to address the critical concerns related to healthcare, crime, water infrastructure, tourism, and the ongoing neglect faced by the opposition in matters of national importance. Firstly, let us talk about our seniors, our nation's backbones, who have toiled for decades to build this territory. It is unacceptable that the National Health Insurance and the BVI Health Services Authority have not ensured that these exempt individuals, including our seniors, are truly free from the cost of accessing care at their health care facilities. Our seniors have given all to this territory, and it is our moral obligation to ensure they receive the support they need without additional burdens on their already stretched finances. Additionally, when we look at the retirement benefits, they have to be increased. With the rising cost of living, our seniors deserve a better quality of life. They should not have to choose between basic necessities and living with dignity. I urge the government, through the ministry responsible, to pay attention to this and address it immediately. I turn now to the alarming social ills plaguing our community. Crime continues to be a growing concern, and it not just affects one district, it affects the entire territory. But I want to pay particular attention to my district. There have been occurrences of robberies, shootings, gunshots, and the tragic loss of life due to gun violence that has shaken us all. As a youth mentor, a youth minister, a youth advocate, I want to take this time to implore our young people to understand that the fast life only leads to a fast demise. You may gain temporary riches, but the cost is immense. Your life, your freedom, and the heartache and heartbreak that you bring to your loved ones will live forever. Let us redirect our energies into constructive paths and provide meaningful opportunities for our young people to thrive. Young persons throughout the BVI, this BVI is yours. The future belongs to you. This country was built on the backs of persons without education, without all the opportunities that you now have. If you take the time and invest in yourself, find a skill, find a craft, the money that you are chasing, you'll be able to achieve it because the BVI is rich in opportunities and the ability to create wealth. I turn now to the issues of water. The ongoing water issues in the areas of Just Van Dyke that has been, the member for at-large member Smith pointed it out, particularly on Just Van Dyke, that has gone for 7 months of the last year, and including today as we speak, without water for a week at a time. Bruce Bay, Chalwell, Mares, Great Mountain, and all across the territory and the rest of my district, those water issues continue to plague our residents. Access to clean, reliable water is not a privilege. It is a basic human right. The ministry must act with urgency to address these deficiencies, as the member for the 6th pointed out and the member for the 8th, and I know the large member who will speak after me will point it out. The people of these communities of this Virgin Islands deserve solutions, not excuses. I move now to tourism, because I happen to represent a tourism district. I must express my deep disappointment with the Premier and the Ministry of Tourism. A tourism summit is now taking place on Peter Island, a crucial event for our territory, and not one single member of the opposition was invited. How can we address tourism comprehensively when representatives from key tourism-dependent districts, such as mine, are excluded? Only after I pressed for answers on Wednesday, I was given an explanation that didn't make sense, and then tried to have an apology given to us, and I believe every member of the opposition was then contacted to try to see if we will be able to attend. Just like other persons in the community, we have our lives, we have our plans. And I don't think any member of this opposition would have avoided attending such a summit given the importance of tourism to the territory. Tourism continues to be the lifeblood of our economy, and we must work together. Premier and your government, I am saying, tourism is the lifeblood of our economy, and we must work together to ensure its success. I call on you to do better. Finally, I want to assure the constituents of my district that I remain committed to the infrastructural development in our community. We will continue road paving and overlaying projects in Hatchet Hill, Kings Road on Just Van Dyke, the back road from Foxy's to Rudy's, as well as the works that we have started to end the year in Spooners Estate, Ants Hill, Mayaba Road, Luck Hill, Bruce Bay, Mount Healthy, and Upper Soldier Hills. These improvements are essential for the connectivity, safety, and overall quality of life for our residents. I urge this government to prioritize the real needs of the people. But in order to prioritize, they must first have a plan. People of the BVI, let us build a territory where our seniors are respected, our youth are guided towards brighter futures, and our infrastructure is robust and our communities are safe and inclusive. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, member for the second. We now have the Deputy Speaker, Territorial Large, Stacey Mater.
Good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon to my colleagues. Good afternoon to persons tuned in via social media, radio, and the like, and also to the members of the media who sit here patiently waiting to ask us questions. I would also like to express my condolences to those in our community who have lost loved ones. I can only imagine the pain that you are experiencing right now, and I pray that God will give you the strength to continue. The Virgin Islands that we live in has changed, and it continues to change. And today I would like to address pressing concerns regarding the alarming frequency in crime, especially among young males, which continues to alarm, worry, and cause grief across our entire territory. On Wednesday morning, in the wee hours, persons across this territory awoke to news of a young man, Quinton, just 2 decades old, legally only 2 years above the age of being considered an adult in our territory, who was gunned down and his life was taken. Recent statistics and news reports reveal a troubling trend. In the past 18 months, the BVI has experienced a significant increase in violent crime, in the number of murders and serious assaults. Many of these young offenders we all know or have interacted with. I can recall seeing Quinton through our community. Some of them are fathers, their sons, their nephews, grandchildren, or cousins. In 2023 alone, there were 115 recorded serious offenses with young males increasingly involved in these incidents. This is too many, and we must find ways to reach the underlying causes of this. The surge of gang activity among our youth is particularly concerning. Young men, often from vulnerable backgrounds, are being drawn into gangs that exploit their need for belonging and purpose. This phenomenon is not unique to the islands of the BVI. It mirrors trends globally and regionally, where young people become victims of grooming by older gang members who prey on their vulnerabilities. And if we've been paying attention to reports in the news, we know this is what is happening in our territory. And these consequences are dire, as these young individuals often find themselves embroiled in violence and criminality, which eventually lead to either prison or death. In June 2024, a comprehensive review of law enforcement was released, outlining 138 recommendations aimed at addressing many of these issues. Has there been any update on any of these recommendations? How many are still pending in terms of being implemented? When will it be communicated to the public where we are with these recommendations? This is a lack of transparency and raises questions about our commitment to tackling crime and supporting our youth. As we sit here today, we are still awaiting part 2 of this review and what it may bring. We must demand accountability from the government and those involved in our national security and crime, and updates on these critical recommendations must be forthcoming. As a responsible society, we cannot continue to walk the road of blindness and exclusion on matters like this. To effectively combat this crisis, we need robust educational and social reform programs tailored to meet the needs of our young people and their parents. And I say their parents because parents are struggling. Many of our young offenders are high school dropouts, and we must create pathways for them to develop careers in technical fields. Unfortunately, the enrollment in the Virgin Islands Technical School has declined, leaving many students frustrated by their inability to access vocational training. This gap not only exacerbates dropout rates, but also limits opportunities for those who are eager to learn and grow, and we must do better. Our parents must be held accountable, but we must develop social systems to help parents so that they can help their children. As I mentioned before, there is part 2 of this law enforcement review coming, and within the recommendations or the insights to that review, they will also review the National Security Council and their role. So today, I call on the National Security Council to develop proactive programs and strategies aimed at preventing crime before it occurs. The Premier's promise of a national crime strategy nearly a year ago remains unfulfilled, leaving many citizens questioning our leadership priorities. While funds seem readily available for consults and sponsorships, there appears to be a glaring lack of investment in addressing the root causes of crime and or supporting our youth. The rising crime continues to impact our daily lives, our country's security, our businesses, our economy, and we as Virgin Islanders. Today, I also call on the fathers, uncles, and men of our territory to join me and make ways for our young people to speak up about their challenges. Make ways for them to allow their voice to be heard. Set goals and standards for all young men in our society and let them know what we want. The young men of our society have a voice and they have the power to change what is going on in our country. Now, before I conclude, I must also mention that pensioners, retirees, and seniors continue to reach out to all of the members of the opposition, myself included, and we will continue to champion their cause for better and fair treatment. I thank you for listening. I am open to questions, and I revert back to the leader of the opposition.
You, Territorial Member, Deputy Speaker, for those remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we said we were going to finish 1:30, 2:30, I mean, but we started 20 minutes late, so we need to at least accommodate the media and their questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have heard from my colleagues, Sister Island issues, the economy, crime and infrastructure, tourism, and the challenges of the young people of this country, and the challenges of our seniors who have contributed tremendously to the development of this country. So, with those few remarks, I will open the floor to the media for questions. And you can say who you are and the media house, and you have 3 questions. And then we'll rotate and we might get back to you.
Good afternoon, Zan Lewis, ZBV Radio. I have difficulty in understanding. Every time the opposition has a press conference, they're speaking about the same things. They're speaking about the problems in infrastructure. They're speaking about the problems in roads. They're speaking about the problems in water. You're calling on the government to do certain things, develop this area. And you could know the Premier ain't listening to all you, because every time you all come, it just saying the same thing. The member for the 6th district said he's tired. And he's tired of this lackluster behavior. Mr. Mater talk about they can't continue to walk this road of blindness. But it's just talk. Some time ago you said, Mr. Skelton, you can only talk. But there is something. The Premier not listening to you all. The Premier continue to on the same road, his same path. And as you continue to talk, nothing is happening. What next can you do? Isn't there something else you can do instead of just being repetitive, just saying the same thing all the time?
Well, one of the things, thanks, Zan, for the question. One of the things about what you were saying, in this business that we are in, we have to continue to talk and bring the issues to the public, who some of them know more about the problem than we do. But we don't have any other choice but to talk and to take actions like walk out the house, call press conferences, go on the radio, talk about these issues. That's the democratic process. Unless you have a suggestion.
There's more you can do, leader of the opposition. Get the people with you. You spoke about doing it. Get the people. You have people in the east. You have people all about suffering without water. They have real problems. You won't get the people from the 3rd district anymore. You should have gotten them before. You won't get the 3rd, I believe, because of Mr. Fraser now with the government.
We'll get some.
You'll get some. But get the people along with you instead of all of this talking. You're not trying to get the people who have water problems. Get them on the road.
And get them on the road for To rebel.
To rebel, and to,
Okay.
not rebel, but just to show their disgust of being fed up.
A good suggestion.
Will you do it?
I don't. I will do it.
Members, it's not a good idea. What are your thoughts on that?
That's 3 questions.
No, that's one.
But the point you're making, we understand. Trust me, we understand.
Mr. Skelton, you all have been offering, saying certain things about how the country is running. What are you all doing apart from just talking? I am saying that there are 6 of you. Are you offering an alternative? You all are not doing. You all are just sitting there, different people representing different organizations in the opposition. What are you doing? What are you presenting to the people as an alternative? We have been hearing talks of merger. We have been hearing talks of a new entity inside the party. What is it? What you all are doing?
Let me see if I can answer your question, so you don't add anything to it. Zan, one of the things that we have recognized as an opposition, even with the member for the third was with us, we recognize that the last 2 elections clearly states that as individual parties, it's very difficult for us to unseat the Virgin Islands Party. So there are discussions that are happening to see how we can get our people together and to stand for a common cause so that we can basically present ourselves as a united front for the next election. I think that's what you're hearing.
You support the merger between the PVIM and the NDP at this time?
I support the merger of our people on all sides getting together for the common cause of developing our country.
So that's a yes?
I don't know what else it can be.
No, I'm asking if that's a yes. I'm asking you a direct question, sir. Are you in support of the 2 parties? Are you in support of the PVIM
Having discussions.
having discussions and to join it?
Yes,
join, or
I am.
are you in a better?
I am.
And or are you? Wait. No. Let me put another one to you. Or are you in a better position, or probably prefer the parties coming together but forming a new entity?
That's a difficult question. I never thought about it, but ask me it again in the next press conference, and I probably
so
have
that's not
a better.
happening now within the party. This new entity.
I don't know if it's happening. It's not happening with my blessing.
So is it happening, sir?
I don't know. I don't know. Is it?
Good afternoon, Jacques Wooding. Oh,
I wanted to add a little to what it's on. I wanted to add to what Zan, the question that Zan asked. It's a very valid question. It's a very valid comment more than a question. And that the opposition comes and talks and says the same thing and nothing happens. It's one of the reasons why I said that we need to have more than press conferences. We need to have the people talking with us. We need to talk with the people. We need to hear from the people. Yes, the people elected us to represent them, but the people can speak with perhaps more eloquence and get them to speak more frequently about these issues. And then at some point somebody will be listening. In my own way, moving along from that point, in my own way, I am not just talking. I do things that will help the people, of this territory. And I talked about them. I talked about helping with the sister islands in the educational field. I talked about helping in financial services and so on. So in our own way, I think all of us do things. But the point you make about us just talking valid point, and we have to move beyond that, and we have to get the people to do more talking, the people of this country.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, Jahphix Wooding, 284 Media. So my first question is to Honorable Skelton. You mentioned that the opposition has made significant contributions to various bills. You also listed them out, acknowledging that much of those discussions occur in the committee stage. Premier Wheatley has said he hopes to make this stage of sittings public as the government prioritizes freedom of information. Do you support this move, and how do you think this will impact public perception of the opposition?
I support the public viewing of committee stage. Structure had to be. They have to put structure to it before that can happen. And you see it in many parliaments around the globe. So I don't have an objection to it. The structure, and it might bring a level of decorum, a level of responsibility to the committee stage of the proceedings.
Okay, and just part two of that question as well. How do you think it will impact public perception of the opposition?
I think it will see the opposition in its true form, where the contributions that the opposition makes to all of these bills. I think it will be good for the opposition, and it will probably make the government bring bills that with not so many what do you call it now, difficult issues that make people anxious. The anxiety of the people increase it. They will do their work properly. I think it will help the opposition. Yeah, Honorable Malin. Oh,
I just wanted to support the point made by my honorable colleague, because it's a point of view that I shared. I think many of us have said that on the campaign trail, that those committee proceedings should be public, particularly that the public needs to have an insight in terms of the process, how the process works, and what we're doing on their behalf. Particularly, we have expressed that, particularly for the Public Accounts Committee, when we're talking about the finances of the territory and how finances were spent and expended. We actually have a document that was developed to come to the House. I think the leader opposition will decide when that happens, where we recommending that the proceedings of the Public Accounts Committee should be public, so the public could get a sense of what happens within these committees, and how many of these decisions or projects or initiatives, how they've went awry, and the work that we're doing to ensure that we have accountability for the spending of public resources. So I support the leader opposition in that regard.
Honorable Member
Yes.
for the Sixth.
I do support it as well. I think one of the failings that we've had as a House of Assembly, not just this House of Assembly, is not educating the people enough on the matters that are being dealt with on their behalf. And certainly, if the committees are made public, then that helps with the education process. But what I think is also very important is getting the process right in the first place. And this has been something that has been a major problem for this government. They are not reading the bills before they come to the House of Assembly. As I said, just in the last sitting, one member indicated that himself, that they're not reading the bills, they're bringing them to the House of Assembly, for the House of Assembly to address them. So there is a fundamental problem at the beginning. It seems as if the instructing ministries are not giving proper and clear instructions to the Attorney General's chambers to draft legislation that could stand the test of time and consider all the various things before they get to cabinet. If they get to cabinet and they're not in a state of readiness, because you get your cabinet papers days in advance, just like you get your papers for the House of Assembly days in advance. The papers are given to you with the addendums and attachments for you to scrutinize them, for you to read them. Because even in a previous government that we've been in together, Honorable Skelton, we have sent back many pieces of legislation from cabinet that we know did not pass the smell test to get to the House of Assembly. Those two last bills that came to the House, I mentioned them in my discussions. The Police Act and the Cybercrime Act. Those should not have come to Cabinet, should not have come to the House of Assembly in the state that they were in. They were woefully insufficient. They were matters that dealt with human rights, people's fundamental rights and freedoms, with no consideration at all for the balance, that balance between supporting law enforcement and also protecting the fundamental rights and freedoms of people. And what is even worse is that when you hear the Premier speaks, he speaks about giving the police powers. He seems not to have a full understanding of the globality of this whole issue. You can't just give, yes, we want to arrest criminal activity. We want to get it under control, but you don't want to turn the country into a police state. And so you have to read the information. If you don't understand it, you have the resources available to you. Get someone to explain to you what it is that is taking place so that when you come to the House, you can make contributions that are meaningful. So yes, having the committee stage is important, but I think getting the things done right in the first instance is more important.
Deputy Speaker.
If I may, one of the more fundamental parts of legislation is public consultancy. And if you look at some of the bills, especially the ones that were a bit hurried through during the Commission of Inquiry, there was not enough public consultation, in my opinion, on many of those. But also educating the public. Most of the public are not aware of what goes on in the committee stage. And for those who may be aspiring to be in the House of Assembly, because I'm always going to be a proponent of leadership, they need to see what is going on in the House, how leaders behave, what is the process, so they can have a better understanding of how the legislative process works. And for those who will one day be asked to vote for someone, they need to see how a representative actually represents them when the cameras were off, or now they're, as I said earlier, Alexander, you pointed out, walking blindly and being excluded. So I am always for inclusion of our voting population, the citizens of this country, being included in all matters.
Okay, we spoke significantly about communication. I was going to save this question for last, but I'm just going to ask now. Does the opposition have any plans to better their communication with the public? While some members, like Honorable Smith and Honorable Turnbull, for certain, have been very active online on social media, especially other members lack that visibility. I'm going to use Honorable Skelton as the example because his last post on his official Facebook page was on the 19th of January 2024, and prior to that, April 2023.
I'm still looking for a media consultant to assist me.
But is there any plan for maybe a joint page for the opposition for these kind of postings, or
It is true. We spoke about it, but we never got around to making it happen.
If I could add.
Yes, please.
I think you're being quite selective in your research. Because if you were to research properly, many of us around the table have been very, very active. As a matter of fact, just shortly after the police bill and the cybercrime bill, I posted my contributions, and that was just last week. So I want to encourage you to do greater research, because what you are saying is not so.
I apologize for my selective examples. I've also noted Honorable Mather on Twitter.
Yes, let me finish as well. And there are also different forms of communication, not because you're not seeing it on Facebook. I understand you're a young lady, but before you were born, we used to talk under trees. We used to visit people's houses. As a matter of fact, that is perhaps still the most effective form of communication. So not because you're not seeing it mean that it's not happening. It is happening. And even Honorable Skelton, he's a little older than us. He may not be on Facebook, but I know he goes out himself into the communities, just like all of us, and have discussions. So not because you're not seeing it, darling, doesn't mean it's not happening, okay?
What's been said?
Just one thing for me to note, you did acknowledge that I'm young, and a significant portion of voters are also young. Voting starts at 18 years old, so voters might not all be under the tree or listening to the radio.
But the point, I agree with what you're saying, but the point that I'm making is a combination. It's a combination of all of those things in terms of being able to have effective communication. Both what you're saying and also the one-on-one discussions. And funny enough, when you go out, a number of us are very outgoing, tonight is Friday night. We're going to put on our Friday night attire and we're going to go out and you're going to meet the young people and you interface with them there as well. Because when you're talking most times on social media, you're posting something. Very seldom you get responses. You don't get that level of interaction when you meet face to face. So that's still the best form of communication in politics as far as I'm concerned. And I think all of us do that.
Remember the second.
Thank you. If I go back to the point of your question, what can we do, and do we plan to do more? I think we need to be doing more. Individually, we all do our best to represent and ensure that we are remaining relevant and advising and updating the people of our constituencies, both with the face-to-face contact, the house-to-house visit, the community meetings, the posts on social media. But as a collective group, I think that was the point of your question. I think what we plan to do going forward, and I hope the leader opposition, I know it's part of the discussion, but I'll just say it now. What we plan to do is not just have press conference, but be able to go around the territory from District 1 to 9 and have meetings and have different engagements with both the young people as well as the older community on areas and issues of concern. So I think together with what we're doing individually, as a united front of the opposition, one of the things that we can do more is engage the public more as a united front to appreciate the concern, so that when we go to places like the House of Assembly and even on our public forums, we could be able to report back that we had this meeting, these are the concerns, these are what we want to have addressed by the government, and if they address, we could relay back to the public the same thing. I think that helps with accountability. So to be fair and answer your question, I think there is more that we can be doing as an opposition collectively to show force, and I think that also points back to one of the questions that Zan was asking in terms of talking, but talking accountable in our responses, what has been done, and letting the people know that this is what we are doing.
No, I just wanted to share, and I thank you for your question and your point that you raised. And as a young person, I guess you're getting that from your segment of the population as well, who are saying that they want to see more and hear more from us. And I think we hear you, and I think there's need for a collaborative approach. All the approaches that our members mentioned are necessary, and likewise the one that you mentioned is necessary as well. So we'll look at being more active, me in particular, and be more collaborative in our approach in terms of engagement, particularly the young population, who's very active on social media, eager to know what's happening in their country. And I agree. I think your point is taken.
Your point is very valuable.
Simply put, I appreciate your criticism. I will do better. And the opposition has had conversations about methods that are not common or typical, and you will see better. Simply put, thank you.
And I also want to commend you for that question. We have been talking about it in our small circles and wider circles. And that's why I went back to the point. I keep going back to the point of educating the public. There are areas that the public needs to understand. How does NHI work? How does social security works? How do all these systems work? How does the government itself work? And we have to say that this is a failure of the government, in that they do not really explain, aside from putting up stuff on their pages and so on. They really do not explain the implications of the Health Services Authority, for example, all these areas. And it is for us to find a way to educate the public and to be in communication with the public. Your question was an excellent question.
Good afternoon.
That's
I did too. I'll come back.
Good afternoon, Sean Connolly, business editor of the BVI Beacon. Mr. Skelton, you've all stressed crime. What specifically would you do differently to combat violent gun crime?
Well, I think the member for the six gave a lot of information, things that we probably will do a bit differently. In other words, being in the government before and being the Minister of Finance, giving the police the resources they need, all law enforcement, customs, immigration, and the police, the resources they need to fight crime before crime happens is something that I think a government needs to do proactively and not wait until it's out of control to address it. There's no doubt in my mind, based on, and you will recognize it, crime is a major disease around the globe. Call it a disease. So we are no different. But I think we are fighting from behind instead of fighting from in the front.
Yeah, combating the causes of crime is obviously very important, but that's a very long-term strategy, even a generational one. So what would you
Yes.
actually do now to deal with the actual problem that's happening now? Some of the other overseas territories, thinking particularly of Bermuda here, they've floated the idea of bringing in senior British armed police or even British special forces to deal specifically with gang crime. Do you think that that could be considered?
Yes, I think it was considered in the past. We have, back in 85, 84, when we had some difficulties, we brought in police officers, UK special forces to deal with some of it.
Do you think it's time to go back to that, to revisit?
I think there needs to be it needs to be a combination of things. I know a state of emergency, even a curfew, or those things. You got to think on businesses. You got to think on a lot of different things. So it needs a collaborated effort. I alone giving you an answer is not the answer. We need to sit around with people who know how it affects each thing and then make a decision. And one of those things, a combination of those things, will need to happen. Police officers, curfew, for period. All of those things probably need a combination of things to fight fight crime. Member for the six.
If I can add, I think we have to address the problem from the two spectrums, right? Because all that we've been talking about now is response, police, other armed forces. We have to get to the root cause and try to understand what is attracting our people to get into antisocial behavior and cause the intervention from early. Yes, those that have passed the threshold and are doing things, you have to use law enforcement to curb it, while at the same time trying to save them. But you have to also take measures to capture those ones who are vulnerable and address the issues from there. So you're starting with the education system. One of the things that I've noticed that has not been a part of the agenda of the government is that we don't have enough youth programs in the country right now. And we need to be able to develop that a bit more. There's far more focus on the students who are in formal education and not enough being done between the ages of, for instance, 19 and 29. You can't find a program for those persons in between there. So, and of course, it requires the pulling of the different civic groups and organizations. So a real comprehensive strategy has to be engaged, not just in terms of the police intervention, which is, of course, is very necessary. What we also have to look at is the economy. The poverty breeds crime. And and this is in no way for me advocating or supporting criminal activity. Not at all. We have to show absolute contempt for it. But the reality is if we don't provide enough opportunities for people to live legitimately, they will do so in other ways. And there are not enough programs, there are not enough opportunities, there are not enough government policies to engage those people who are vulnerable, who we see as the most vulnerable persons, to be a part of the economy. So it takes a comprehensive, it goes back to what Honorable Mehta said. There has not been an overall crime reduction strategy from this government, and it needs to be done post haste so that we can know what the various issues are, the various vulnerable groups and where they are, and what level of intervention and at what stage that intervention must occur so that we can stem the problem.
So it's like a war. You know, you need to fight it, but you also need to have diplomacy behind the scene doing what needs to be done to stop it from happening and get people back together to stop what they're doing. So I think it's a combination of things that needs to happen.
Just a quick that colleague, and I want to thank my colleagues for the intervention. I think it was timely and important intervention. It comes down to a strategy. There's no crime strategy in the country. Simply put, there's no strategy. I've asked in the previous house on many occasions for a committee of the house on crime. I've also asked for us to expand the National Security Council not to just be the premier and his designee. The lead opposition needs to be part of it. Civic organization needs to be part of it. Even social groups need to be part of the National Security Council. It's that way in Cayman Islands, where you have a broader cross section of the community as part of the discussion and the solution moving forward. That way, you could develop a proper strategy for fighting crime, so you get a sense of what the issues are on the ground, why some of the things are happening. It's not just young people. There's a direct correlation with economic inequality and crime. I am seeing in my constituency things I have never seen before. Persons of middle age and certain age groups now are in difficult situations, find themselves in places where they've never been ever before. The government is not doing a good enough job of managing the resources that the country has at its disposal. When you have over $100+ million over the last two budgets going back into the treasury, not being spent on programs to improve the youth programs that my colleague spoke about, not being spent on technical schools or technical programs to give people additional skills, not being spent to support the small businesses and the services that they offer, people are going to struggle. The entire economy in the territory is going to struggle because of the lack of economic flow into the economy. Government is a big provider of the BVI's economy, over $400+ million. If that's not going to the economy, it's going to have an impact on the social fabric and on crime. So overall, there just needs to be a strategy. We don't see a plan of a strategy, and we've made recommendations. We've suggested a committee of the whole house, the things that I've mentioned, where all of us could put our heads together to develop a comprehensive approach to address the issue of crime in our territory.
Okay, second question, Mr. Skelton. The ever elusive no confidence vote, where are we at with that at the moment? The last time you tried to force it, I think it was November, you accused the Premier of packing the order paper so that there wouldn't be time. He said at that point that he'd offered you a deal behind the scenes, you and the Speaker, where if you let the COI stuff go through, then he would set a specific date for you where the no confidence motion could be heard. Is that correct, or is he being misleading in that?
I think I nearly used one of the words. I think he's being disingenuous.
You're saying he's lying?
He probably said what he said, right? But that he cannot do that based on the democratic process. The Speaker is in charge of the House. The Speaker is in control of the House. There are three leaders in the House: the Speaker, the leader of government business, and the leader of the opposition. Those are the three leaders. Now, we started to debate the bill. I started not debating, but introduced the bill, and the government side walked out. So left us with 5 people on our side. So we, once somebody bring to the attention of the Speaker that there's not a quorum, then that's it. So the introduction of the motion was already in process, and they walked out. The government walked out of their own house that they have the majority for.
If I may just piggyback on what Honorable Skelton is saying, what the Premier says and what the Premier does is two different things. That has been proven, and by your fruits you should know them. That's what the Bible says. I think what's important is for us not to lapse on the fact that the opposition will bring back another vote of no confidence, and we will continue to bring challenges to the government, because even the 21 items that were listed in that motion in November, if not 99% of them, given that we are now in January, they still are very relevant. And there's more that can be added, and we will do our job to bring it back to the House of Assembly, because it's part of the democratic process. It's part of how you keep the government accountable, and rather than them playing the games that they have with the democratic process, they need to answer the people of the Virgin Islands, because the things that we brought in the vote of no confidence are on behalf of the people of the territory. And the people of the territory are saying that they are hurting, and hurting people hurt people. So we are trying to get the government to address the things that you need to address. You have $100 million, you have almost a $500 million budget. What are your plans to address the needs of the people? And that's what the vote of the confidence is. So you will see it very soon in the future.
I could just add one last thing. Your very question, which I believe to be truthful, again highlights the lack of respect for the legislative process by the Premier. And he has demonstrated this consistently throughout his term as Premier. I mentioned concerns about the bills coming to the House without being properly read and properly scrutinized, the bills being pushed through for first, second, and third reading without understanding the importance of the first reading and time in between the first and second reading, so the public could be made aware as to what is taking place. To even simply his lack of respect for the House. He's late every single sitting of the House. The last throne speech, the governor's people were there. He had the governor waiting almost 40 minutes for him to arrive so the governor can give the throne speech. And here in what you are saying, he's negotiating a parliamentary device, a parliamentary accountability device. He is negotiating for it to come when it suits him. Don't we see what's happening here? This is somebody who has absolutely no respect for his first call of duty. Nobody voted him to be premier. Nobody voted him to be a minister of finance. You were voted first to be a member of the House of Assembly, and that is where you get, that is where your power is derived from to carry out your executive functions. Huh?
Do you think he acts like a dictator then?
He's acting as somebody who is not master of his own mind, who does not understand what it is he's doing, who does not understand what he's gotten himself into. It is clear. It's almost like a child who is just playing with marbles and moving them around and think that it's all fine. That is the behavior that we're seeing. So for you to negotiate when the leader of the opposition brings a vote of no confidence, tells me that something is dreadfully wrong.
I look at it more like he is basically playing with the democratic process of any parliament, because in any parliament the opposition can bring a vote of no confidence to the House, and it is normally accommodated easily. But what he has done is, bills, he continued to reorder the other paper, which is sometimes unheard of. Only here it happens. It's normally done when there are emergencies, real emergencies. That's when you reorder another paper. And in most parliaments, the other paper only lasts for a day, the majority of parliaments. But all other paper goes on for weeks and months. So he's playing with the democratic process in my mind.
Okay, if we do actually get to a vote ever, it's 7-6 in the Premier's favour. So who are you aiming to flip? Who's your target? Who's your weakest link on the government benches?
I was hoping to flip that large member, but she's with us. Now I have to try to flip the member for the third.
Okay.
I think, Sean, it goes those points in the vote of no confidence. They go beyond. I know you were being flippant when you asked who would be flipped, but
Somebody has to be flipped.
yes, in order for it to succeed. But those points are critical. I know Zan said that we talk about them all the time and repeat them, and they are not they are ignored. But there are points that the country needs to hear debated. They are from both sides, the government side and the opposition side. And when the time is right, I hope that that vote of no confidence will be debated when the time is the time is right now, but at the right moment, I hope that it is debated. The vote of no confidence is debated because there are too many issues that the public want to hear. They want to hear about. They want to hear them debated. They want to hear them aired.
Good day, Shanda, BVI News. The representative for the second mentioned that they were not invited to the tourism summit. The at-large representative, Miss Lawrence Smith, stated that she went. Is there a reason why the other members didn't opt to go as well or take the same initiative?
I think I will let her answer that question. I think you missed something that she said.
Shonda, as a territorial at large representative, I'm everywhere all the time. I think all of us try to be. I knew about this conference, this important conference, since November of last year. And it was at that time that I made it my business to say or to ask that I be included, invited. And that is why I said I invited myself from then. And I believe from the 2nd of January, I kept getting it confirmed and reconfirmed that I would be there in a personal capacity. And I can say that when I arrived, I mean, the protocol was attempted, but I did say I'm here in a private capacity. And so I was there as a member of the public.
And remember, she was a member of the government back then when so she would have had inside information that we would not have had.
Okay.
That's flippant and not
Shonda,
true.
if I may, just for public knowledge, I have not been invited. I did receive what I assume was a message from a public officer the night before it was to commence. I since reached out to them and asked them what were they contacting me about. Another member of the opposition told me more than likely it was about the event. I will go on record that I have not and was not invited. And I can only not appear at things that I'm aware of. If I'm not aware of it, I will not be held accountable for it. But this is, again, a reflection of when the government has things, they will invite who they choose to invite. And that is something that continues over and over again. And then members of the public will be questioning whether or not members of the opposition, why were you not there? But again, for myself, I'm saying, and my other colleagues as well, we cannot appear where we're not invited or we're not aware of.
As the leader of opposition, I was not invited. I got a telephone call about 5 o'clock the day before, apologizing for the oversight of not inviting members of the opposition.
I have to agree with what is being said. I think it is something throughout government that requires more attention. Again, it's an indication, in my view, of how the executive arm of government is handling their responsibilities. We're all members of the House of Assembly. In your thinking, there's no way that you can arrange something of this magnitude, particularly with the fact that the opposition has been hammering the issues surrounding tourism, asking for a tourism plan. Almost every sitting of the House, we mention it. During the budget debate, it was a long part of our discussions about the numbers and the fact that people are hurting. I don't see how you could forget to invite the opposition. And then I don't know if you noticed at the last, at the throne speech, you didn't see anybody from the public pretty much there. You just saw civil servants.
Yeah.
So it seems as if there's something is wrong in the engine of government that is not working. But notwithstanding the lack of invitation, I listened in on social media, and it was certainly a good thing to do, to have a summit. It would have been good if it was done earlier during the off season, so at least some of the changes could have happened in this season right now. But I guess it's better late than never. But it's going to take a lot more than the summit. I think some good things came out of it. One of the things that continue to concern the opposition is that the lack of resources behind the tourist board. You give the tourist board $10 million when their operating expenses is $9 million. What do you really expect them to do compared to their competitors who have upward of $20 million for marketing of the country alone? So it just can't be what you are saying, more talk, more talk, more talk. To move some of these things along, to get us to where we need to get to, the financial resources need to be deployed with the tourist board to make sure that things happen.
Just for the record, I just wanted to also say that the view expressed by members is the same in terms of my regards. And I also want to express the view of my concern in terms of how the government handles national events. You had a deposit insurance launch. I don't know if the colleagues were invited. I wasn't invited. You had other major events that are of a national importance that we continue to think that we're playing this party politics. Once the elections are over and the 13 persons are elected, you're the leaders of the country. All of us are the leaders of this country and have a responsibility for what happens in this country. So we all need to be involved in the process in some way. We're not going to sit in cabinet if we're in opposition. Sure, but we need to be part of the discourse and the discussions, and particularly things of national importance. And I think that's where the lack of maturity comes out and shines through, where you see that people think it's about party lines. No, it's about country. People in 8th district elected me to represent their interests throughout this country. The people in the 2nd, the 6th, territorial people that vote for the top 2 vote getters in this last election, top 3 vote getters in the last election. They are people that they represent their interests, and they need to be part of the discussion and the process that are taking place from a national perspective. And I just hope that the government sees the error of its ways. We're going into a new year. We have a new approach in terms of how we deal with these issues of national importance and ensure that all of us are around the table of discussion.
Right, thank you so much for that. I also had one more question. I know that Director Stacey Matters, he's also the director of YET. But what is the opposition as a collective using their roles in society? How do they plan to aid the gun violence or the increasing gun violence in the different societies?
I think I thought we answered that questions.
Yes, you spoke about it on the government collaborative. I'm talking about your roles in society.
Let me allow the.
I guess I need to be the one to actually answer this for my colleagues. I'll begin with the leader of the opposition. I can let you know that in small instances, the leader of opposition has agreed to begin by having conversations with young men in our society about, like I said in my presentation, about what we expect from them. He's a big person that's into cryptocurrency and those things. So trying to help them with their financial literacy. The territorial member, my colleague Lorna Smith, as she said, she's all over the place, and she's been investing in educational advancements. She's also been investing in cleanups throughout the society, because sometimes it's just about your environment and what is going on that needs to be done. My colleague in the 8th is also known during the Christmas season. He did engage a lot of the young people in his district. He's also an avid fisherman, and he's always excited to talk about that with young people. And you can see with his son what he has done in terms of his love for the sea and things like that. The honorable representative for the 6th district, as you know, has always been an advocate of young people in the society, and you can see the things that he's done both during the Christmas season and throughout his district. That's something that you'll always see. He's always discussing the rated program and how he's been, and his colleague for the 8th, been effective in getting young people who are underemployed or underskilled on that track. And the member for the 2nd, who's also, I think, a pastor, also talks about the things he did in his private life before with Lionheart and all the things that he continues to do in his district with bringing young people together, not just as a representative, but also as a member of a congregation, King Garden Bay Baptist. So I would say that I am the one that would be able to say whether or not my colleagues are engaging our young people, but I do take, again, mention what you did say for 284 Media. What you did say is definitely noted, and the opposition will continue to engage our young people to make sure that they get the feeling of being included and wanted, so that when it comes to next election in 2027, God's willing, the members around this table will be looking for their support, something that we have built over the next couple of years and not something that we're coming at the last minute to ask for. Thank you.
Just to quickly respond and add to what Honorable Mehta said, he comes from a background where YEP is approaching its 20th year as director. I had my time with Project Lionheart, which I still do some mentorship in my private capacity. I think part of the discussion is, as Honorable Walwyn stated, the prevention and intervention, not from the police side, the prevention and intervention from early education to steer our youth in the mindset to understand that yes, violence and crime is out there, but your mind and your ability to dream, your ability to have vision, your ability to plan is a path to success. Because what we don't do enough is pay enough attention to those who are falling by the wayside. I was one of those persons that was not a straight A student. I was one of those persons who graduated every single aspect of my life. Thank you, Lottie. So we have to put more energies in that, because this fast life that is being lived is much more attractive. We the members of the House of Assembly, yes, we earn a living and people in society earn a living, but if you could sit down in a specific spot and earn double what some of the members and even some of the highest paid persons in this territory earn in a day, then it is more attractive. So we have to do our part individually, collectively, forge relationships with the community organizations, with the police force to combat and change the mindset of this generation that seemingly now is going astray, and it is making difficulty for everybody to remain safe and comfortable in this territory that we love.
Okay, I'm coming back for my last question. During and following the standing finance deliberations, I had the opportunity to speak to a few senior public officers, and the most common complaint among them was about the format of this year's deliberations, where they weren't allowed to make presentations, but they came to answer questions. One of them mentioned feeling stifled. That's what was said.
Right.
That they felt a bit stifled regarding the presentation, that they weren't able to accurately voice the concerns of their department because it's like they just came to answer questions. What say you on that?
I know you're directing the questions to the opposition, but the role of the opposition in the standing finance is for the senior officers to tell us all their problems and all their achievements. So the stifling could not have come from us, because we were the one encouraging the officers to speak. And we were the ones, if you get a copy of the report, you will know that we ask all the questions.
No, absolutely. Maybe
So
you misunderstood my question.
Okay, sorry.
So my question was more so, what was your view on this change in format, whereas they weren't giving presentations? Because previously, you would look at the document, they give a presentation or
Yes,
all these
yes,
complaints
yes.
for the year, and then the questions come after. So what's your view on that change in format?
Can I answer that as a deputy
I
speaker?
think, just a minute, Myron wanted to.
Let the deputy speaker
Okay,
go
fair
first.
enough.
So I was the deputy chairperson of the Standing Finance Committee. So to be accurate, they were given 5 minutes to make a presentation, but they were also allowed to opt out of the 5 minutes. They were not restricted to give a written presentation or even submit a presentation prior to appearing in front of the Standing Finance Committee, which they were encouraged to do, which would have allowed us to be able to go through what they had. So I just want to make that clear.
Available to the public, because I have the document here, and what it says is in the cases where they did take, I was saying I have the document here, and what it says in the cases where they did make some presentation or provide an overview is that they provided an overview of the operation. So even with the document, we have no idea.
They were, as the deputy speaker is saying, and has been customary throughout all standing finance sessions, the first thing the chairperson of the committee asks is, would you like to make a presentation, or would you like to go straight to questions? Every single person that came before us was given that opportunity by the chairperson to do that. As a matter of fact, the majority of them opted out of not giving presentations. And those that gave presentations that were even lengthier than the time allotted, they were given grace to complete what they were saying. So I'm not sure. What I did notice, though, which perhaps, again, I want to encourage you to go back again, is that many of them did not know what was approved in the budget for their departments. That is what I know happened. So that is where I believe the problem was, because they would submit and say their wish list. This is what I'm expecting. This is what I'm hoping to get. And when they got into the sessions is when they saw what the government allocated for them to have. That to me, was the problem. The tourist board in particular, the chairman of the tourist board came in expecting to receive $17 million based on what he had put in for what he needs to do for tourism for the year, only to find out in there that he had only $10.2 million. And that happened with many of the other departments. So I have to clear the speaker. I have to clear the deputy speaker. Yeah. That is what
Clear
you're
the
hearing.
opposition too.
It is not true.
But
It's fundamentally false.
I think the fundamental thing that is happening with the budget and the budget process is totally wrong. We are taking a $400 million budget that's supposed to do all sorts of stuff in the country for the next 12 months. And we put it in a window of 2 weeks to ask questions and to find out exactly what this budget means to the people of the Virgin Islands. In the past, it was never like that. I was the Minister of Finance way back, and it took us whatever period of time the House required to go through the budget and to get it right. And I show, if you read the report from the Standing Finance, and then take a copy of the approved budget after it's finished, and examine it, you'll note that the things that were agreed on in this is not in that. Sure, you'll find. I think we're trying to limit the process to shorter period. That is my observation. We have to wrap up, but we need to get on his last question.
Moderator said 2. Moderator tell me 2.
Go ahead, Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Skelton, I'm coming back at you. All of you come here today speaking individually on the many issues that are affecting the territory. And it's not the first time it has happened. Do you think, sir, speaking in a collective voice, speaking in one voice, is important? And I am asking you a direct question. I'm not sure what you told me early on. I need some clarity as regards the merging of both parties. Merging of both parties. That's an issue You should have outlined what that's one of the issues. So people need to find out. Wait, let me finish, Mr. Skelton. Speaking in one voice is important, and talks between the PVIM and the NDP. Would you, sir, as leader of the opposition and a member of the PVIM, support the merging of the parties? Would you work to make sure that that happens? Are you supporting it?
So why I answered the question?
No, you didn't. You were not clear.
Just a minute. No. You asked the question. I didn't interrupt you.
Okay.
So please, okay. You asked a question if I am in support of PVIM and NDP getting back together, and I said yes. I don't know what else to add to that. But you said again that we come here speaking in individual voices, and I disagree with you, because if you check the tape, you realize that we were all complimenting and agreeing with the approach. So that is not a right statement to make, and I think you should apologize to us for making a statement.
I apologize, sir.
Thank you.
Could I get one more? One
Yes,
more.
yes.
No, it's important. The second district representative will want me to ask this.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Turnbull, you spoke about crime. Over the past days, real gunshots down in King Garden Bay, real gunshots in Bruce Bay. Are you satisfied, sir, that you are getting the assistance from the police to deal with this issue? Because they are turning up when it's finished, when it has happened, and picking up the evidence. Are you satisfied with the kind of support from the police patrol? You think they need to do more, or they're not addressing the situation?
Zen, thank you. Thank you for the question. More needs to be done because crime, this gun violence, the echoes of gunshots ringing out in the night in the communities, not just in the second district, but throughout. But you asked a direct question to the second district, is unheard of, and it cannot be what it becomes the norm. A more collaborative effort needs to be made between the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force and the communities, including the second district community, which is an active tourism community. It is an active community for persons that live, and there are 6 public primary schools in public schools in the second district. So you're talking about children as well. What I think the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force can do, because crime continues to evolve. I was having a discussion this morning, and it seems like the amount of ammunition and guns that are coming into this territory are coming in just as much as food is coming into this territory. So strengthening of security needs to be improved in customs and immigration and the police force to deal with this issue of crime, because I always refer to this particular movie, Guns Don't Kill People, Stupid People with Guns Kill People. And that is something that I am pushing for the young people in our community, for all the business people. Yes, I ask the business people in King Garden Bay and Bruce Bay, amp up your security, because this thing seems to be like they're trying to have it be the norm. But I am also behind the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force and the enforcement agency to combat crime and have persons desist from this type of activity, because our livelihood depends on it, tourism depends on it. Remember, for the aid talk about the economy, everything is tied together, and we cannot allow for this type of behavior to become the norm. It might be flashy and everything on TV and all throughout the world, but it is not the BVI, and we cannot continue to bury young men and young women due to gun violence.
Thank you. I think we have to come to a close and make a few quick remarks. I want to thank the listening audience, those on radio and on watching us on social media for their participation. I want to thank the media all the media for their questions, and I hope we have answered your questions satisfactorily. I show you if you need some clarity, any one of the members will be willing to clarify what needs to be clarified. I want to thank my colleagues for speaking in one voice, a unified voice, and on the issues that are confronting this country. They're serious issues, and we cannot not talk about them. You know, it's all well and good for us to go and get people to march in the streets and so forth and so on, but that leads to a different level of problems that we must be careful how we do it. I want to thank my colleague Lorna for the beautification she intends to do. You know, all the derelict vehicles by the Pier Park and other places that the QE2 Park that needs attention. And I want to thank the general public for their support for us as opposition members. And we will continue to do what needs to be done in order to keep our country moving forward. Thank you.